Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about something which I've been asked to mention and has come up a few times across the various social networks, social media sites, and that is specifically for those with low latent inhibition, but also I suppose for those without, is human thought association, how that works, how can you effectively learn to read people better, especially if you're experiencing much greater volumes of stimuli than the average person, which is the case of course for a lot of people with LLI. And given that when you've got low latent inhibition, you are processing more stimuli, and that stimuli of course will then result in thoughts, and those thoughts will then often result in actions, words. So it's possible to familiarise yourself with why someone has thought what they've just thought, why they've said what they have or done what they have, but equally, as well as reading people and potentially helping yourself understand why certain things are said or done or thought about, it's also possible, of course, for people who are noticing things which other people don't within their physical environments, whether that's something as small as maybe an object, a very small object that's been dropped on the floor that you've noticed and no one else has, or whether there are a whole host of things really that you can, I guess, consciously register with low latent inhibition, and that you know that most, if not all, of the people around you haven't noticed that event. This of course results in you being in a situation where you are able to notice a form of stimuli that's just occurred that no one else has noticed, and of course you can use that, you can play on it and use it to help give you a greater understanding of, I suppose, any really situation that you're in. So to start with, an example I would like to give is in terms of how people think. So when people are thinking about things, and those thoughts have usually stemmed from something that they have processed from around them in their immediate environment, they'll hear a noise, they'll think something, they'll smell something, that will lead to a thought. Maybe they'll see something move, that will lead to a thought, and that thought will then lead to words or to an action. There's always an initial point of inception, stimuli-wise, where something happened to trigger a series of events afterwards. It's very much a cause and effect based system, I guess, in that the cause will be you processing some form of stimuli. The effect that you processing that stimuli might have will be for you to then think something, and that thought will then lead to you wanting to say something. A simple example of this, I suppose, would be seeing maybe a poster or a billboard with a burger on that board, seeing the burger and thinking, I'm hungry, and having the thought, I'm hungry, then leads to a decision, I will go and get something to eat. So with low latent inhibition, and the nature of how it works for so many people out there with it, is that you're always wanting to know why things happen. Why did that person do what they did? Why did that person think what they thought that led to doing what they did? Which form of stimuli did that person notice to have that thought that led to their action? And many people with low latent inhibition grow up with this desire to always trace a chain of events to its original source, to the point of inception, if you like, to the original cause that led to all of the effects thereafter. So a way in which I guess I've practiced this over the years, or something that I've done more for fun, but also because it's helped with my understanding of people around me, and is one of the things that I feel has led to me being a much more tolerant person than a lot of people out there that I've met and spoken to with low latent inhibition, is once you can understand why people do what they do, you're able to better regulate your feelings towards others and thoughts towards others. So to really cover how I've done this, I will start with an object. So for example, just to give an example of how this works, let's say the object is a glass that you would drink out of. then you write the word glass down on a piece of paper as your starting point. So maybe potentially something like this. Okay, so the word glass would be the starting point. If someone sees a glass, it's where their thoughts can go to after having seen that object, the glass. They might then think of having a drink from seeing the glass. They might think of physical materials, because of course a glass is made of glass. They might think of the shape of a glass, so potentially a tube shape. Or they might think of sand, given that sand is of course used to make glass with. Just a small example really as to the different ways in which people's thoughts can span out from that initial sort of first thought or the first item of stimuli that they have seen, how that spans into others. Once they've gone from glass to drink, they might then think, for example, water, or they might think cola, or they might think of thirst. Materials, obviously you can go a number of ways with materials. They might think of sand again, they might think of wood, they might think of metal. Tube could lead to other things for them as well, and again same with sand. Sand might lead to beaches, beaches might then lead to holiday, holiday might then lead to sun, sun might then lead to burning, burning might then lead to oven, oven might lead to food. That's an example as to the chain of events that can occur in terms of what people think and why. It's a very small basic example for you, and when you spend some time practicing getting to know how this the human thought association works with people, you can then get to a point where you can trace their thoughts back to what the original thing was likely to be. So if someone's thinking of sun, or you're standing near someone and they say, "Oh wow, isn't the sun bright today?" Well, in order for them to have thought about how bright the sun is, they may have been thinking about a holiday that they went on or have been on recently. They might then have obviously got the thought of a holiday from a beach that they were on at the time, from sand on that beach to glass which is made out of sand. For a lot of people with low latent inhibition, they will notice this original piece of stimuli here that other people may not necessarily notice. But at the same time as that, you'll see people, of course, such as sort of fairly famous people. I mean, there's a guy called Darren Brown who does this, and people like Darren Brown are basically, in front of an audience, they will show examples as to how they can, I suppose, manipulate people into thinking a certain thing or of a certain word. And they do this really by the power of suggestion, or by their ability to notice some stimuli that other people don't, to then take that stimuli and present it to people without those people necessarily knowing that Darren Brown in this case has actually put that idea in their minds. And then you're in a situation, of course, where the person in this case, such as Darren Brown, will throw out there a piece of stimuli. They will gauge people's reactions to that stimuli and be able to realise then why people have reacted in the way that they have. So an example of this might be, in terms of thought association, if you are in the presence of someone and you mention water, or you ask them whether they'd like a drink, or you mention how rainy it is outside, or that you saw pictures of waterfalls recently, what you can actually do is influence what the people around you think using the power of suggestion, using the stimuli that you generate to put forward to these other people. So you might wish to influence someone into going to the toilet, and you might sort of play with them a bit and go down the lines of, "Would you like a drink?" 5 minutes later, "Are you sure you don't want a drink? I've got lots of water." "Oh, I had some problems with my toilet the other day." It's if you have decided what you would like the end action to be, or the end effect, and you are also able to put the cause out there initially, you can join up the effect with the cause and bring them together. So the effect will be, I'll see if I can influence someone into going to the toilet. By doing that, I will constantly throw out several bits of cause. I'll make them think about water, I'll make them think about needing the toilet, I'll make them think about having a drink. And that's an example as to how you can understand human thought association and then use that to read people and to encourage people to do certain things or to think about certain things. For those of you out there who've seen the film Inception, which is of course based on dreams, it's I suppose it's a similar thing to what they are trying to do in the film, what they do in the film Inception, which is to put an idea into someone's mind, and for that person to consider that they came up with this idea. It wasn't put there by somebody else. They're responsible for having their own idea. And it's very similar to this and to the understanding of human thought association, that you can plant words, thoughts, actions to the people around you and watch what they do, and how they then use those bits of stimuli that you've offered to them for themselves within their own environment. So to conclude, really, something that would be probably helpful for people with latent inhibition to try, just to see how you do with it, is ask yourself why people do what they do all of the time. Consider what thoughts those people might have had that have led to them doing what they do. Consider which piece of stimuli that person may have processed originally that led to a thought, that led to their end action. And once you've done this for a while and you've practiced this for some time, not only will you have a greater understanding of people and the environment around you and how people work and the human psyche, but you'll be able to become a much more understanding and tolerant person. Because usually, where there's intolerance, there is misunderstanding, there's a lack of understanding, and it's by people not wanting to understand and not doing all they can to understand that leads to friction, to anger, to some fairly powerful emotions. And I always, really when I'm discussing with people, I'm a firm believer in you can only really ever agree or disagree with something if you understand that something. And I think that this is a great way of helping people with and without low latent inhibition to understand those around them, to understand why people do what they do, but to also give you a bit of an insight into the fact that it is possible to influence those around you to think certain things and to do certain things without those people actually noticing the point of inception where you've thrown out a form of stimuli to then watch how they react to it, etc. So that's about it for this video. Try mapping out a few human thought association processes yourself on paper. See how you do. Try it with yourself as well. Think of something and just follow the chain of thoughts. Look at something, taste something, listen to something, and see where your thoughts go. Familiarize yourself with why your thoughts have gone to those areas, and hopefully this will lead to a much greater understanding of how people think. And that is a very valuable skill to have in life. So thank you for listening. I'll put some more videos out there soon. Please let me know if there's anything that you would like me to talk about, and I'll be happy to cover that off. Thank you.